Steve wanted me to reflect a little bit on some of the work that we've been doing to encourage our churches to think about social justice. It's not that our churches haven't been thinking about social justice, it's just that it was a new opportunity, a fresh opportunity for us to look at it again, to see what might happen if we thought about it in a different way. And this year, Bishop Paul spoke to the churches at Liverpool Cathedral about his way of considering social justice in the light of some of the things that he's been exploring in the last few months, years. And this little handout is one of Bishop Paul's handouts that he spoke to us around social justice, particularly about how, as a community, we might be able to flourish. And the community being God's people. So in the broadest sense, us as a human community, worshipping God, Father, Son and Holy Spirit. So on this side here, we see some quotations from a number of places, scholars, thinkers, theologians. And the theme of these particular quotations is that this notion of how we as a church grow numerically, grow spiritually, grow in our action, and how we discern, how we make sense of the world and what is needed to happen in the world to change the world for the better. So you'll see there's four really quite diverse quotations here from different decades, and different decades in the history of the way that we as churches and as the people of God start to think about ourselves and the way that we do social justice, not just think about social justice. So I'll leave those for reflection, because the thing I want to mostly speak about is the thing that's on the other side. I've been thinking with a number of people in collaboration about what makes us as the people of God flourish, and how the actions that we engage in, how they help us to flourish. So it's the performative of the thing that we intend to do. So how our doing helps us to inhabit our being, to make sense of our being. I thought a little bit about what this meant, an analogy for it, and the way that I felt it is like, I quite like tennis, and Wimbledon's coming up. I don't know if anybody else likes tennis, but I like to take a little bit more leisurely time whilst Wimbledon's on, certainly the second week of the fortnight, to try and watch as much tennis as possible. Now, if I was going to join a tennis club and I bought all the kit, so I got my nice white clothes and a tennis racket and some really lovely trainers, and I joined a club and I paid some money to join the club, and then with all my clothes on and my tennis racket, I then stayed in the clubhouse and never ever went out on a court to play tennis. There was absolutely no way that I could describe myself as a tennis player. And this is an analogy for me as about how we describe ourselves as Christian disciples. Are we really Christian disciples, or are we people who've joined the club but haven't got an intention to actually go and use the clothes and the equipment that we've been given? And that's how I also knew, in terms of that analogy, it made a sense of how much tennis has meant to me. And actually the time when I love tennis the most is when I play it, and when I can get that ball and move it around. I don't have to win, just have to play it. It's just a great game. Yeah. Anyway, so the Bishop Paul's got these two phrases: more people know Jesus and more justice in the world, and a bigger church to make a bigger difference. They're quite impactful statements, but it's actually just statements, aren't they? How do you live this out? And so the first area is around this impact. And my thought was, we have impact, we have flourishing, that leads to a buzz, and the buzz of the activity, the playing of tennis, is the thing that draws people to it. The crowds, the sport, the activity. So the impact here is how the things that we do to make a difference in the world, the ordinary and amazing things that we do to change the world for the better. This is all impact. These are individual, small actions that change the world for the better. Random, individual acts of social justice and mercy, and the way that we speak and witness to the glory of God. Those things about the impact that we make as individuals in the world to change the world for the better. What makes us flourish is when those things that we do individually and the impact that we have individually, when we start to do those things together. I don't think flourishing can happen apart. It's something that we do together. It doesn't always, it's a complicated thing, flourishing, isn't it? But it's about being on purpose for God. It's how we become ourselves in that moment for God. It's playing part in the change and witnessing the difference in the world. So it's actually seeing the things, noticing them, speaking into them, and collaborating in amazing difference-making acts in our community. Community is a very negotiated word, and we don't always know what it means. But community, I guess, is the place where we always find ourselves. It's the place where we return to, the place where we are known the most. And when we start to make those difference-making acts within the place where we're known the most, that's where we start to flourish, and those around us begin to flourish as well. And of course, there's the buzz, which is a funny word, and it's a made-up word, I guess, really, in this context. But at the heart of it, what buzz is, it's the thing that makes our hearts sing. That's what's at the heart of buzz. And the thing that makes our hearts sing, for all of us, will be trying to make a difference in the world, bringing justice and peace to the world. We're good at it sometimes, we're not so good at it other times. But what makes our hearts sing is the thing that will make the difference in the world. And striving for happiness and contentment and joy and flourishing for the whole of humanity is, I think, what's at the heart of this impact, flourish and buzz notion. It's what happens, buzz is what happens when we make massive kingdom connections together. Not individually, but together in the name of Jesus. It's what happens when we celebrate together God's work in our communities. It's when we indiscriminately share what we celebrate with others. And it's when we walk into God's plan and see justice and mercy flowing. It's not about our own efforts in here, it's walking into God's plan and just stepping into the river of justice and mercy and starting to splash back. Did you see that picture, that little film of the gorillas splashing around in a blue swimming pool? If you get onto the internet today and don't watch anything else, watch the gorillas splashing about in a blue swimming pool. It's one of the most joyous expressions of buzz we will ever see. This happiness of just being in the middle of great joy and change and flourishing. And I believe that the only way that we will see growth spiritually and numerically in our churches, and that's churches across all denominations, people being drawn to the gospel and the word of God, will be if we have this sense of the gift that we have been given, the impact, the flourish, the buzz will lead to growth. It's what happens when we, Jesus' disciples, make an impact, flourish together and create an irresistible buzz. And that's our job as the people of God, to create that irresistible buzz. All of this is based on an asset-based notion of social justice. So instead of looking at people's deficit, to consider all the assets they bring. And scripturally, the passage that I've been drawn to and reflecting on constantly at the moment is a passage which we all know around, it's the story of the feeding of the 5,000, where it seemed like there was not enough, but the very small amount that was given, just a couple of fishes and some loaves, was blessed and broken by Christ and then given out to the people in abundance. There wasn't just enough, there was an abundance, a flowing of God's gift. There is only just enough, but it will be blessed and broken by God to be an extraordinary generosity. And that's what I think we need to be looking at and looking for in our communities and for ourselves. The just enough that can be broken and blessed by God to become an abundance. So that's where I'm up to at the moment. It's very much work in progress, and I would welcome any comments or thoughts or ideas that can help us to develop this further and think about it further, and particularly as we think about the Church of God across the whole world and across denominations and through the people of God in different churches, to be able to find a way to express this incredible buzz that we have as the people of God. That's